Welcome, everybody, into an all-new episode of the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. I am Brian Ciano. Thank you so much for joining us. We take our weekly look at everything going on in the world of combat sports. We have lots of action going on. There were two BKFC cards last weekend that we're going to talk about. We have PFL cards starting up this weekend. We have more BKFC, a doubleheader out there in Dubai. We're still talking about that great Lights Out Extreme Fighting 23 card. We're going to hit all that this week on the show as we get into everything going on in the world of combat sports. We'll be hooking up with our man Luis Palomino Baboon later on in the show, the former lightweight champion of the BKFC, former double champion, talking about his fight against Howard Davis that he just had in Hollywood, Florida. We'll also talk to Lights Out Extreme Fighting lightweight Allan Stott, who made his pro debut on that LOXF 23 card, where he had a great performance, a second-round TKO. We'll talk to him about the start of his pro career and what's coming up next for him, and we'll break down all these cards. As we said, lots of great action. We even have some card changes that we're going to hit on for next week's PFL card, as there have been a bunch of fighters moving around, in, out, new faces, former matchups gone, new matchups created, new people in the tournament. Even have one coming up for 2 weeks from now that we're going to hit as well. So a lot of things going on in the world of combat sports. Let's get into all of it right now here on SportsGrid. Now, as we said, BKFC just had another great card. BKFC 70 on DAZN last Thursday down there in Hollywood, Florida. A loaded card, and the stars showed up not just in the squared circle, but ringside as well. You had Amanda Nunes, the Lioness there. You had David Benavidez, the championship boxer. You had Shaq. Of course, Conor McGregor always showing up as a big part of this organization now. You had Andre Arlovsky ringside as well. Dion Dawkins of the Bills was in Justin Ibarola's corner. So there was lots of famous names, famous faces there, a bunch of streamers as well. Lots of people there to check out the great card for the BKFC. And then even had a lot of hostility before the fights even got going. Just seems about everybody in that main card was shoving and pushing and getting each other's faces at the weigh-ins on Wednesday. So people were ready to scrap before we even got to the night of the fights, and it delivered for sure with a lot of great battles throughout the night. Let's start with the main event, of course. As we said, you had the Baboon, Luis Palomino, the former double champ, former lightweight champ of the BKFC, going off against Howard H.D. Davis. It was built as a county versus county battle down there in the Miami area. You had Broward, you had Dade, both representing. You had an inaugural King of the Streets belt, another belt that the BKFC is creating with the Beefs, and it goes the way of Luis Palomino. We'll talk to him about that later on, but a great performance by him early on. The first round is back and forth. It was close. Both guys kind of feeling each other out. Maybe he went to Howard Davis because, a little bit more aggressive coming forward, and that kind of sways the judges in a tight round. But to me, rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, all in favor of the former champ in Luis Palomino. You even had some, maybe controversy, not huge controversy, but in the third round, big swing by Davis leads to Palomino nailing him with a shot in the gut. He goes down. Ref calls it a slip. I'm sorry. One guy gets hit, then goes down. That's a knockdown. He wasn't completely off balance. It was the shot to the gut that took the air out of him to put him on the mat. Luis Palomino doesn't get the 10-8 round there that he should have. Still stays 10-9. So after 2 rounds, it was split. Palomino takes the lead by 1 point after the third round, in my estimation. There was also a situation later on where Palomino's, opening up on Howard as he's backing up towards the ropes, and Howard loses his mouthpiece and then just stops fighting. Takes another shot from Palomino and then is, yelling at the ref like, well, what are you doing? I lost my mouthpiece. Well, that's not how the fight game works. If you lose a mouthpiece, you go until the ref says stop. He'll jump in there. He'll stop it at some point when there's an opening, but he's not going to stop. A clear advantage by your opponent to make sure you get your mouthpiece back in there. And then, of course, he took his time, washing it out, going to the corner, catching his breath. A little bit of a gamesmanship there by Howard H.D. Davis. But to me, Palomino had a great fight, showed why he was the champion, showed why he's still unbeaten in this lightweight division. And he takes this one by unanimous decision on all 3 judges' scorecards, 49-46 on 2, 48-47 on 1. I clearly had a 49-46, and it could have been even bigger. Could have been 49-45 if the ref judged that one right. But fight of the night honors for those 2 guys. Great job by Palomino. He was excited. We'll show you some of the post-fight footage of him later on, giving love to his corner, talking about how important they were and how much love they had for him and his win and how excited and emotional they were. But a great return for him, and we'll see what's next. In the ring afterwards, he calls out Tenaglia. First, it seems like I think it was Duran that he was shouting at, telling him to shut up and sit down, and that he's running scared from him. But then also talked about how he has so much love for Tenaglia, respects everything he's done, that he's a great champion. But No one's beaten him in this division, so he's still a champ, and he thinks he should fight for that title. I think he should too. We'll talk to him about that later on in the show. Then we'll talk about this fight quick because it was a quick fight, as they all are for Leonardo Perdomo. He faced Steve Aurelius, 13 seconds. That's all it took, 13 seconds. Early on the fight, Perdomo kind of was off the line, then jumped right in. A couple seconds, they kind of stared at each other, and then boom, Perdomo hits him with a jab to the body, then a right to the body, then a left to the head, and Aurelius starts going backwards. And then all of a sudden, he tries to throw another shot, and then the big left drops Aurelius. You see him there, face on the mat, falling like a tree, fight over, 13-second knockout. El Zombo just keeps doing better and better every fight, no matter who he's facing. Who he wants to fight next? The big man, Big Ben Rothwell. He called him out, said, let's go. I've been calling for this for a year. You keep dropping everybody you put in front of me quicker and quicker. He wants a shot at the title. I think that would be an awesome fight. And if you look at the way the heavyweight rankings are right now, I mean, how could you not? Somehow they still have the former champ Arnold Adams in front of him, even though he hasn't fought in over a year. Somehow, I mean, Mick Terrell just was the champ, just lost the belt, so I get him being in front of him. But Ben Rothwell, then Mick Terrell, Arnold Adams, who shouldn't be there until he fights again, and then Perdomo. You can't put Mick Terrell right in there against Rothwell again with how quickly he beat him. So let's go. Let's get Perdomo. Let's get Big Ben. Put them together and see who is the most dangerous and most violent heavyweight in the BKFC. And afterwards, speaking of violence, speaking of a dangerous fighter, Conor McGregor talked about how awesome El Zombo has been for the BKFC.
Leonardo El Zombo Perdomo, my God, 13 seconds. I have a 13-second KO also. So when I heard 13 seconds, I was like, yes, I know how good that feels. I know how good that feels. And boy, oh boy, impressive against a former WBA heavyweight world champion, which shows the caliber of what we are doing. He's an asset and a credit to the country of Cuba. And God bless him. And we wish him all the best. Heavyweights, watch out. And our heavyweight division is stacked in bare knuckle. We've got some incredible heavyweights in this division. And El Zombo is one of the most scariest men in it. So more power.
Of course, Conor McGregor talking about how dangerous he is and talking about the great career he's had. But now let's get into another guy who's had a great run right now, unbeaten, and that is Justin Ibarola. He gets it done against Velasquez with second round TKO. A great performance by him. Another guy who, again, should probably be in title contention. I mean, when you're that high in the rankings, who else is there for him to beat? He's number 2 now behind Blas. He gets the win over Velasquez, who was up in those rankings as well for a while. The first one, actually, I thought was Velasquez's. I thought he did a great job, finding some good shots early on coming forward. He had the straight lefts that snapped back the head of Ibarola early through some uppercuts and some hooks. He was looking good. I thought after that first round, Ibarola was bleeding a little bit, having trouble finding his range. That wasn't the case in the second round. Ibarola starts to come forward. Instead of letting Velasquez come to him, he's the aggressor. He comes forward, and it does wonders for him. Starts picking his opponent apart, dropped him 10 seconds in. Right away, that aggression paid off. Knocked down Velasquez. Comes back, continues to put the pressure on him, and then with 40 seconds left, knocks down Velasquez again. He can't get off his knee. That's the end of the fight. Ibarola remains unbeaten, 7-0. Like he had the merch out. You saw Deion Dawkins in it there, ringside in his corner. He already had the 7-0 jersey, so at least he doesn't have to go print out a bunch of new stuff. Says he doesn't even want to fight with Blas. I'm sorry, what? You don't want to fight the champ? He says, no one's beaten me. I should be the champ. Well, no one's beaten Blas either. But he's saying that he actually called out Uriah Faber, who was in the corner of Velasquez, saying, let's get him in there. I don't know why that makes sense. I want to see him against Blasio. Both these guys are dangerous. That could be a great fight. And then bantamweight, you also had Justin Street against Matt Russo. Street gets the victory by TKO at the end of round 2 because it cuts above Russo's right eye. Russo did not like it, but the doctor gets involved, as they would later on, a couple days later on the Manchester card. We'll talk about that when we come back here on the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. A great card down in Miami, but it would not be outdone. It would not be, just the only one, as they had great battles out in Manchester for the BKFC as well.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play. every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The team we expected to be a national championship frontrunner all season long and even before the big dance. That is the Duke Blue Devils.
I don't care that people are like, oh, anticlimactic. You have the 4 best teams lined up, superstar coaches, young coaches, old coaches, veteran teams, young teams. This has got a lot of great storylines heading to the Final Four this weekend.
Only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. 4 number ones. 4 champions. 4 teams that battled and clawed their way here. But here's the thing about 4 number ones. Only one can truly be number one.
Incredibly difficult.
When the stakes are highest, there's only one place to get all your betting insights. SportsGrid. We've got you covered until only one remains. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. We just talked about that great card down there in Hollywood, Florida. We mentioned the Manchester card. We'll get to that next segment because we have great fights coming up this weekend, and it's a double card. We got to get a little extra time here to talk about the back-to-back cards for the first time. BKFC going over to Dubai, and there are a lot of titles on the line. Let's just hit those in the time we have here right now, starting with these fights that are kicking off right now. Of course, that is noon Eastern. They started the main card, so we got to get to these fights before they get in that squared circle out there in Dubai, and that is, of course, the welterweight title is going to be the main event between Austin No Doubt Trout and Carlos Trinidad Snake Trout, the 39-year-old American, of course, the former WBA light middleweight champion, 37-5-1 in his boxing career. He's been undefeated since coming over to the BKFC, something that not a lot of boxers have been able to do. Some of them have had trouble making those adjustments, taking off the gloves and just throwing with bare fists. Not him. He's got a TKO win over Diego Sanchez. Then last December, he picked apart he had a decision win over, of course, Palomino last February, where he picked him apart to take this title, take the welterweight belt, and make Palomino a one-division champ before he later was stripped of the lightweight. But then, of course, also had a decision win last October over Rico Franco in Spain to defend the belt for the first time, and now he does it again overseas, being a big draw for the BKFC against Carlos Trinidad Snake. The 29-year-old welterweight is going to have a bit of a height advantage here. He's going to have a reach advantage as well. Undefeated, 6-0 in the BKFC with 4 of his 6 wins by KO, TKO. He's got wins over Ryan O'Reilly, Elvin Brito, and Dustin Pegg, some of the best in this division, and he sits there at number 2 in the rankings. So, of course, gets his title shot against the champ. This one's a tough one to pick because you're going to have, of course, the power and the distance that a Carlos Trinidad Snake can use. You have the experience and maybe still the speed of Austin No Doubt Trout. That's going to be a big thing. If he can use that speed, if he still has it at 39 and he could get off quicker than his opponent and get out of there before he lands those big shots, then I'm going to stick with the champ, Austin No Doubt Trout, by decision in this fight. You also have a title on the line in the women's strawweight division. That's going to be, of course, Britton Hart versus Ty Emery. Interesting matchup here. Of course, Ty Emery, the 38-year-old American, is coming in there as, making a big name for herself over in Thailand in her first 2 fights there. Went 1-1 there, then got another win to go up over 500 and 2-1 when she fought in that card, that crossover card with Rizin for the BKFC. Of course, she lost to Po Denman in her second fight in the BKFC Thailand, then beat Charissa Shields there in that Rizin card. A great performance by her with that first round KO, a very vicious win for her. That's both her wins have been by early stoppage, where she just overwhelms her opponent. Can she do that against the champ here? And of course, is known for her celebrations as much as the victories, the flashing the crowd early in her BKFC career, getting a lot of attention. Now let's see if her fighting can do the talking once again here. Do it with the fists and not with the flash. And that is going to be against Britain Hart, the champion in this division. The 35-year-old is going to be a little bit taller, a little bit longer, and of course has defended his belt a number of times. 9-3 in the BKFC. One of the most long-standing BKFC fighters, one of the most victories in all of the BKFC, not even just the women's side, not even just this division. He has wins on a 5-fight win streak over Beck Rawlings, Segala, Jenny Savage, Melanie Shaw, and Taylor Starling. Of course, that Starling fight was her last fight out there on the big stage in Sturgis, headlining that biker rally car. That was an awesome scene, and we'll see now if she can do it in Dubai as well. I mean, Emery's got some flash, he's got some power, but I'm going to go with the vet. I'm going to go with the one who has taken the biggest shots from the baddest women in the BKFC and just keeps coming forward, even if she doesn't win. When she has fought, and of course, some of those great fighters that we've seen up in the 125-pound division, including the Misfit, she has come out on top just about every other opponent. So I'm not going to take Emery to knock her down if you can't even get knocked out by the Misfit. I think she goes a distance, picks her apart, and uses that speed and that tenacity to hold on her title once again. Then, the following day out there in Dubai, again, early cards, we got a featherweight belt on the line with King Kai Stewart defending his title against Tommy Steerdam. Steerdam, the 39-year-old South African, 4-0 in the BKFC, 3 KO TKO wins. Only fought one time each year from 2022 up until this year. This is going to be his second fight with the BKFC this year, so we'll see if he can do it in a more compact schedule than he's used to. Coming off the third-round stoppage win over John Spencer in February. He's got power. He can be dangerous, but there have been plenty of guys who have had that against King Kai before, and it has not gone well for them. The undefeated 7-0 BKFC champion in this division had his first 2 wins by stoppage, then the last 5 have all been by decision as he's gotten into the tougher opponents, but he's shown more and more each time. Beat Louis Lopez to win this belt for the first time. Then defended against Howard Davis, Brian Duran, and Jimmy Rivera. Now, the Rivera fight, of course, if you watch this show, to me that was a little bit closer call than it should have been. I thought there were some knockdowns that weren't called that could have made it a different fight, maybe sent it into an extra round. But still, he put on a great performance against a longtime vet, and we'll see if he can do that here against another opponent in Steerdam. Again, it's not the sexy pick to go by decision, but I'm going by that again because that's the way that King Kai has won his last 5 fights. That's the way I think he does it again. It's going to be a different scenario here with another power puncher outdoors in Dubai in the desert, but I think that this kid is ready for anything, as he has shown he can win in many different ways. I think he remains king of this division and holds on to his belt. And then last, an inaugural women's featherweight title with Hannah Rankin versus Jessica the Black Widow Borga. We've been calling for some of these upper divisions for the women to get a title, get some rankings. Well, now they do here. It's Rankin, the 34-year-old Scott fighter, former glove boxing champion, 13-8 record in boxing. Took him off for her first fight with the BKFC with a split decision win over Deborah Melhorn on the Spain card. Not the dominating performance a lot of people expected from her. So that may lead to some questions when she now fights Borga, the Black Widow, the 35-year-old American, of course, part of that great team down in Tampa Bay that has dominated the BKFC in a lot of ways with a bunch of belts, a bunch of championships. She's only 2-0, has not been able to find as many opponents, obviously being at a higher weight class than the 115 and 125s, but she's going to be now trying to get that first title, and I think that she gets it. I'm not going to go by decision here for the first time on these Dubai cards. I think that Borga gets a stoppage. I'm not going to go as early as her first 2 fights with the BKFC. Not first round. I'm going to give some respect to Rankin and then what she's done in her career. I say third round stoppage for Borga to take that title. And of course, on these cards also, on this Friday card, you also have the first fight there for a long-time heavyweight Alexei Oleinik, the boa constrictor, former UFC fighter, 47-year-old, has 61 wins under his belt. A lot of those by submission. How does he do standing with the BKFC? We'll see. You also have on the Saturday card, Brandon Allan joining his teammate over there in Borga, trying to go to 6-1 on that card against longtime UFC fighter Fabio Maldonado, also making his debut in a different fight. So a lot of names, a lot of great fights over there in Dubai as the BKFC tries to put their best foot forward over in the Middle East for the first time. Can't wait to recap those with you next week.
Here's a tip for my fellow golfers and gamers. Do you want to book a golf trip to Vegas? For the best weather, aim for spring and fall. But the best prices, aim for summer and winter. But if you're looking for that sweet spot, try June. You get the August prices without that scorching heat. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. The BKFC has had a lot of action going over the last couple of weeks. It's going to continue. But, of course, we talked about the Hollywood card. Then we previewed all the action this week out there in Dubai with some of the main fights there. Let's talk about the title that was on the line in Manchester. The UK featherweight belt, the vacant UK featherweight belt, that great BKFC Manchester fight night that we just saw this past weekend. And that involved Jono Chip Chase versus Gary Fox. Both these guys had a lot of great wins in the BKFC. Who would end up with a strap around their waist? And that goes to Fox in this case. Fox was the older fighter, 39 years old, former glove boxer, 13-4 before coming over to bare knuckle. He was 3-2 in the BKFC, now 4-2. Chip Chase, the 33-year-old, had a lot of Muay Thai fights before the BKFC. He was the one that had the better record at 3-0, but now falls to 3-1 as Fox gets the win, the TKO by doctor stoppage after the first round. Doctors were going to factor in a lot in this Manchester card. Probably the most dangerous person involved in a BKFC fight is rarely your opponent, rarely the ref. It's usually the doctor with all the cuts and things that are going on, and that happened here. As in the first round, Chip Chase was coming forward early on, but Fox was doing a lot of movement, was doing a great job landing on his opponent early on. Like 30 seconds in, he lands a great combo. Another 10 seconds later, lands another one, and that started opening things up on Chip Chase there. You started seeing blood coming into the eyes. First the one, then both. By the end of the round, after a couple more shots, both eyes had blood coming into it. I thought it was maybe cuts on both sides. We find out in the middle of it, because Chip Chase is sent to the doctor before the start of round two, that is actually from the bridge of the nose, right down the middle, and it was leaking blood into both eyes, making it maybe hard for him to see. Huge game, of course. He's not going to quit, but when you see the doctor there manipulating the cut, it turned your stomach a little bit there. Looked more like he was messing with putty or with a rubber mask than with somebody's face, the way that he was able to just move things around in there. Obviously not a good situation for the fighter, and he steps in there, does his job, and rightly stops the fight. Even though Chip Chase didn't want it to go that way, that's the way it is. You get cut up like that, it's in the hands of the doctor, literally in that case, and Fox wins the belt. He says that he knew he was winning the belt. He thinks he'll destroy everyone at this weight class, even took shots at Kai Stewart. I heard Kai talking to our man Brian Sosha this week before his fight out there in Dubai, saying that, of course, everyone's going to come for him. He's the champ, and he thinks that that's a made-up belt over there, that the only belt that matters is one that he has. We'll see if we ever get a matchup between these guys, if he is able to hold on to that belt against Steerdom, but good win by Fox. He is now the UK featherweight champ, winning that vacant belt. You also had a great fight between Jack Cullen and Jacob Kaczynski. Cullen was making his debut for the BKFC, the former WBO title challenger. People were very, had a lot of anticipation for what he's going to do in the BKFC, and he did not disappoint. He gets the win. First round, TKO stoppage, another doctor stoppage. But again, it was one that was warranted as, Kaczynski was coming forward early. Cullen was just picking him apart with a lot of jabs early on, dropped him with a left hook 15 seconds in, just continued to take his opponent down. Big shots throughout the round as he was picking him apart from the outside. Kaczynski got cut on the brow early, was bleeding. Cullen dropped him a second time with a left uppercut 40 seconds in. It seems that, as we got to about 90 seconds there in the round, into the fight, his opponent Kaczynski spits out his mouthpiece. And then that kind of worked out against him because he looked like he flat out spit it out, like he was trying to get some time there, as we talked with Howard Davis, maybe playing some games with that earlier on at the Hollywood card. Well, when he spits out that mouthpiece and the ref calls time to go pick it up and put it back in his mouth, instead of him just getting a few seconds to recover, he gets sent to the doc. And what does the doctor do? Calls it. Again, checking there on him, says the cuts are, too bad to continue. Fight is stopped. He is now 0-2, and Jack Cullen makes a great debut for him in the BKFC, getting a impressive and dominating win. Another guy who got a great win in dominating fashion was Connor the Crook Cook, who beat Stevie Taylor, gets a 1 minute 41 second TKO win there, as both guys were landing early on. Cook throws some good jabs throughout that first round. Taylor was swinging big as he starts bleeding from the forehead. Cook starts catching him, opening him up. And, when that happens sometimes, especially if you've seen it happen other times in the card, better not take the chance, better try to finish the fight. And that left him open. Left hook stumbled Taylor 115 into the fight. Cook again attacked him once again right away. And you see that, dropping him, falling like a tree, fight over. Ref doesn't even go on to count. It is the end of the fight, and Connor the Crook Cook gets another win, now 5-1 in the BKFC as Taylor takes his first loss. A lot of action throughout that card, though. The last 5 fights on that card end by KO, TKO. Last 4 of those in the first round. So a lot of quick action, a lot of quick battles, and some great performances by everybody on the BKFC Manchester card. A lot of great fights. I hope you watch it. If not, make sure you go check it out on the BKFC app. When we come back, we'll talk to one of those guys who had a great performance this past weekend. Luis Palomino is going to talk about his fight with Howard H.C. Davis next up here on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. 4 number ones, 4 champions, 4 teams that battled and clawed their way here. But here's the thing about 4 number ones. Only one can truly be number one.
Incredibly difficult.
When the stakes are highest, there's only one place to get all your betting insights. SportsGrid. We've got you covered until only one remains. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The team we expected to be a national championship frontrunner all season long and even before the big dance. That is the Duke Blue Devils.
I don't care that people are like, oh, anticlimactic. You have the 4 best teams lined up, superstar coaches, young coaches, old coaches, veteran teams, young teams. This has got a lot of great storylines heading to the Final Four this weekend.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Go to the right. I thought to the right.
The real GOAT. The real GOAT. 9-time world champion.
One over here.
How about them apples, baby? How about them apples?
Good fucking work together.
Yeah. Look at this man. Look at this man. Look at this. You see this? This is why I got so damn good. You see that passion? And people, some people, they look at it like he's crazy because he's a little crazy. But his crazy match my crazy. Huh? I love you, Coach. I love you, man. Oh, man, that feels good.
That is Luis Baboon Palomino celebrating his win down there in Hollywood, Florida, off that great victory over Howard Davis, giving his belt to the coach and showing the love to his team that helped get him there. And we bring him on now. Luis, thanks so much for your time. Glad to have you back on the show. Great performance by you. Before we get to the fight itself, I know there was a lot of back and forth between you guys. There was, beef at the weigh-in, some shoving and stuff like that. PKFC was building this as, kind of the beef between the counties down there in the Miami area. For those of us who don't know, who don't live down there, how much, rivalry is there between the two counties, the two areas of Miami that you guys both representing before you even stepped into that squared circle?
Well, first off, thank you, and thank you for having me once again. Look, there is no rivalry. That's back in the days. I grew up in Florida. I've been living in Miami for about 28, going on 29 years, and I grew up in a time when there was a lot of gang violence. Like the streets was real back then. Not anymore. That is not happening anymore. But at heart, the culture. We still, we rep Dade, they rep Broward, but there isn't no wars going on like it used to be back in the days. So none of that's happening anymore. It was more like a cultural thing where, so I'm from Dade. Where you from? I'm from Broward. So let's go out and see who the king is, and Dade County always coming on top.
I got you. I feel that, growing up in New York, you always had the different boroughs and who's better, even though you're all New Yorkers. So there's that little rivalry, but in the end, you're from Miami. You're all from down there in South Florida representing, and you both have done a great job over the years. And now you just want to see mano a mano who is best. Although, even though there might not be beefs between the counties, it seemed like you guys definitely had your issues with each other throughout the fight. It seemed like after every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the mood between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fight. You have emotions, you got adrenaline, everything's running high, but what was the feeling between you guys, besides just the fist flying, the words flying as well throughout the fight?
Well, this is the young lion that, had been getting groomed to be next in line for the title. He's the younger guy, 14 years younger than me, with a great record, 8-1, I think it is, 8-1-1. I thought it was 2 losses, from what I heard in the report there, it was 8 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. And that only loss is to Kai, which is also a champion at 145. To get a record like that in BKFC, this is the mother of bare knuckle events. It's like the UFC of bare knuckle. This is the top of the top of the line. You know what I mean? So to get a record like that, you have to respect it. He came in, he's always been very respectful. Howard, I've always liked her. I've always liked him. I've always said it. Of course, in the whole weigh-ins moment, he has a big team behind him, pushing him, the whole all-in management crew, pushing him and making him believe, that he's ready for me. They're trying to count me out at my age without considering how much work and discipline I put in. But there was no real animosity between us. It was all fight building. The day of the weigh-ins, there was a shove there because he did the big no-no. Don't touch me. I'm very respectful with all my opponents. Do not touch me. Do not touch me. Do not disrespect, because then you're gonna get the animal out. I mean, I did grow up in Dade County when the streets were the streets. Nowadays, everything's chill. It's not like that in Miami anymore. But yeah, man, everything was cool. And then after the fight, I've been hearing a lot of this. And once again, it revolves around who's around you, who's talking all these things. And he started to say that he caught an elbow, and then he put a clip of the super slow motion, and it makes him look even worse because the elbow, number one, doesn't land, It's like this happens. We're going in a flurry. This touches him. It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen, and nothing came out of that. So that shows the immaturity that's still in there. I still believe that if he works very hard and continues on the path that he's on, I believe he become champion sometime out of my timeline, not while I'm around.
Well, you get the win either way, no matter what he thinks. It seemed to me, watching the fight, that the first round was kind of close, even. Maybe could have gone, depending on the judges, maybe could have gone his way from coming forward a little more. But it seemed, for me, 2 through 5, the next 4, all in your favor. You just had the great counters every time he was trying to get in there. Every time he was trying to, start his push to get in there and throw shots on you, you caught him and kind of stumbled him, at least made him stop a little bit at times. And then if you want to talk about, no points taken away, I thought you had a point kind of taken away from you in that third round, because that was a knockdown to me. He may have thrown the big punch, but you landed a punch. He went down. That's a knockdown. I know even our guy Chris Lytle was saying that, it was a slip. To me, that's a knockdown. You should have won by even more. But how did you feel that fight went? Did you feel like you got stronger throughout the fight, that you got his timing down, that, using your experience,
I'll be very honest with you,
you're able to just wait him out and figure him out?
Yeah, to be very honest with you, thanks to my experience, I was able to control my anger towards that situation. Look, we've seen it in the fight with what's his name, the little guy, the little boxer that just what's his name? Anyways, Tank Davis, right, where he takes a knee. Right? Look, a knee in the middle of a fight, that's the point. Okay? Guy is swinging, I'm changing levels, and I land a perfect jab to the body, causing him to land on both knees, and I stop before I swing again because he's with both knees on the ground. That's a point. There is no way in hell you can tell me that it's not a point. That is a point taken away that did not happen. It pissed me off, but I was able to control my emotions. I always preach on that, men being, and especially fighters, being able to control your emotions. So I did. I stayed positive. I stayed composed, and I kept moving forward. And then if we're talking about points and stuff, how about the fact that I caught him with another body shot, boom, to the body, and that kind of rocked him. Like, he felt that body shot to the point where he flinched. I throw an overhand that lands, knocks out his mouthpiece, and the dude stops in the middle of the fight, his mouthpiece, where I'm already throwing a hook. I land a clean hook in my timing. The referee's not stopping it. I didn't have to stop. I could have finished him right there. But me being the nice guy that I am, because I actually like the guy, and I want it to be a fair fight. But in all honest truth, it is a fair fight. I knocked the tooth out, the mouthpiece out. I landed a left hook. I could have finished him right there. Fight would have been over. I gave him the opportunity to do this, spit out his tooth, took his little sweet time picking up his mouthpiece. Then he walks all the way to his corner, pinch the mouthpiece, taking all this time so he can get his head adjusted because he's busy, right? And the following round, there's a separation where my mouthpiece fell off. What did I do? I picked it up, put it in my mouth, kept. So obviously he was taking advantage of the situation, taking advantage that I let him slide, taking advantage that the referee came and stopped it. Those things right there, hey, it's part of the fight game. What can we do? In the end, we took the win. So.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. When your mouthpiece went out, you just picked it up, put it right back in, and started fighting again. There was no time off, none of that. But a great fight by you, a great win. I know you got this inaugural belt, but the only one that matters is the one that Tenaglia has right now. I love that you showed him respect, but let's get that on. Come on, Dave. Let's hook that up again. We got to see you and Tenaglia battle. Yes. Thanks so much, Luis Palomino. Look forward to seeing you fight again soon, my man.
Thank you.
What an impressive debut it was for Mackenzie Gore of the Washington Nationals. He ended up having the most strikeouts of anybody thus far in a Major League Baseball game this season. Buy or sell, George? Mackenzie Gore will be a top 15 fantasy baseball pitcher this season. Top 15. Buy or sell?
You know, these questions are made up by Sam Yarnell, our producer, man behind the glass here. Who's a Washington Nationals fan here? You ever get the feeling that he just made this where you have to say buy? All right, because top 15? Yeah, I think he'll be top 15. Come on, Sam, make it top 10. Make it a little bit more interesting. Maybe even top 5. Yeah, I think he's got the upside to be that. Once again, he is a good pitcher anyway. Once a top prospect here, you're pitching in a good pitcher's ballpark here. I think the upside is there for him to be much better than top 15. Top 5 may be pushing it, but I think he'll be inside the top 10. So yes, I am all on board the Mackenzie Gore train.
All right, yeah, I think that I am going to buy this too, man. I don't know. He's just, and again, it's not just that one start for me. I think I have the video somewhere. I was like literally sitting behind home plate for one of his starts in Palm Beach, and I was like, wow, like this guy's stuff looks really, really good. Yeah, I'm going to buy it too. I think he's a potential Cy Young Award candidate. As George said, you're dealing with bigger markets and bigger names with LA and some of the other teams. Arizona's got some great pitchers too. But I think he's definitely in the mix. And look, do I think he's a top 2 guy? No. Do I think he's a top 15 guy? Yes. I'll buy that. As his season, I think, is going to be a special one for him.
Fantasy sports today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. Thanks so much to Baboon for joining us and talking about his fight against Howard H.C. Davis. Looking forward to seeing him back in there soon, hopefully, and a match against Tenaglia for that belt. Hopefully, to see if he can regain the title that he had taken away from him without anybody beating him. As he said, if you don't beat the champ, how are you really the champ? I mean, that would be a great overseas card. I know there's a lot of other cards coming up for the BKFC in some new areas, or even returning to Salt Lake City. However they want to do it, we got to see that fight happen. Whether it's bringing Tenaglia over to U.S., whether it's sending Palomino over to Europe, some way, somehow, we got to make that happen. That would be great to see 2 of the best in this division go at it. And if not, let's get Palomino versus Soto that we were waiting for forever and couldn't fight and couldn't see fight. But either way, let's switch right now. We have fights coming up. Of course, we had the card for the PFL, the first card in their 2025 season last night. Now, next week, we're going to get some more action. We got 3 more cards coming up for the beginning of this tournament, but big changes happening on the next 2. Let's break them down for you right now from what we know and what we've been able to find out. And that is, first of all, the Bantamweight title, the Bantamweight tournament has some major changes for that April 11th card next Friday. There is a big matchup out, new fighters in. Let's talk about that right now. First of all, Ali Taleb versus Ruiz. Fight is canceled. That one is off the card completely. Why? Well, apparently Ruiz could not participate due to visa issues that could not get him to Orlando for that fight. So we'll see if we see him on some other PFL cards later on, if he's able to get those things sorted out and able to come in for other cards, maybe not involved in tournament, obviously, but some other things happening later on. Maybe we see him coming down the line for the PFL, but instead of just giving Taleb a new opponent, the PFL has decided to instead switch him over to the recently announced PFL Europe card on May 24th. So now he gets a little bit extra time to train, and he gets a new opponent and fighting over in Europe instead of having maybe to work on visa issues for him. I don't know if he was having those, but instead of having to bring him over here to the U.S. and fighting on Orlando, they're going to fight him over there in Europe. So we see a new matchup for him. So since both those fighters now out of that matchup, instead we get a whole new battle in this bantamweight tournament. And instead of another changes, because we had, of course, Francesco Nuzzi is up and into this fight card now, the Berserker. Now, he was part of an alternate bout already for this tournament, but instead of shifting that whole thing up, now he gets a different opponent and is part of the main card. Now, Nuzzi is a 28-year-old from Italy, 10-1 in his MMA career, 1 no contest. Most of his fights were the Italian leagues, fights in MMA leagues over there before his 1 no contest fight in the PFL card on August of 2022. He had a round 1 head kick on a PFL Europe card in July of 23. So he's got 2 fights in the PFL, both there in European fights. But now he comes over to the U.S. for the first time, seeing what he can do on the big stage for the PFL in this tournament in Orlando, kicking off next week. Who is his opponent? Not the fight that he had against Matthias Mateos, the alternate bout that was already planned for him. Now instead, he is getting a fight on the main card against Mando Gutierrez. Gutierrez is a 28-year-old American who's 10-3 in his MMA career. He's got 6 wins by submission, coming in on a 2-fight win streak. It's going to be his first fight in the PFL or in the big leagues there. He actually fought once for Lights Out, who we know well. So, has had some experience here in the U.S. on other cards. Now getting his first shot in the PFL, was going to be not even on this card, was not part of this alternate battle, like we said. So Matos ends up still fighting in an alternate bout on this card. So we'll see if he can work his way back in if someone gets injured or some other issues pop up for one of these fighters. He's going to be fighting against Wilson Norgioni. So he's still got a chance to make it into this tournament if he can get a victory and something else happens. But instead of Nuzzi versus Matos, now it is Nuzzi versus his new opponent Gutierrez. And we'll see how that one shakes out. Going to be a very interesting fight. The way that, if you look at this one, you look at their fight records, it seems like Nuzzi is going to be a guy that wants to keep it on the feet, wants to keep it standing, while his opponent is going to want to drag him down, get it to the mat. So it's going to be all about who controls where this fight happens. If he keeps it on the feet, Nuzzi's got the obvious advantage. If Gutierrez is able to get him on the ground, Mando can try to slap on a submission and get himself into the next round of this tournament after jumping in late here. I'm going to go with Nuzzi right now. Obviously, we don't know much about either of these guys. Don't know much about the takedown defense of Nuzzi. Don't know if Gutierrez can hold his own as well on the feet. But it could be an interesting fight either way for these guys stepping in short notice to join this tournament. Also, changes to that bantamweight tournament. Ciaran Clark, the Irish fighter, is out as well. Now, if you go and check out his social media, you can see that he apparently is out due to a ruptured MCL. He's got a picture of him in the hospital getting it repaired. Sounds like from what he posted that he was trying to fight through it. His team, his family, and people close to him were trying to get him to not take the chance of going in there and doing more damage. He wanted to keep going, didn't want to blow the opportunity of fighting in the PFL here, but unfortunately became too much, had to get it repaired, and he is out. So because of that, now Justin Wetzel is in against Kasum Kasumov. Kasumov was already a part of this tournament, obviously. He was going to fight Clark. Now he fights Justin Wetzel, a 33-year-old American who was 10-2 in his MMA career. He's got 4 KOs, TKOs, 5 decisions. He's on a 3-fight win streak, so he's a guy who's well-rounded. We'll see if he can do that against Kasumov. Now he steps in on short notice to try to make his name here in the PFL. Going to be a tough task against Kasumov and the great fight record that he has. Also, changes to the week following to the headliner for that one, and that is that middleweight fight that was supposed to be the main event, not title fight, but the main event of that start of the tournament, where Imba Kasanganay was supposed to fight Fabian Edwards. It was going to be a great striking battle. 2 guys that we thought could be, favorites to go later in this tournament that are matching up very early on. Well, now Fabian Edwards is out. Not sure why. I didn't see anything on his social media. Even just a couple days ago, he was posting about, a countdown, getting ready for it, his training. Unfortunately, though, appears that he is out for one issue or another, and Impa Kasanganay is going to be fighting Jordan Not Human Newman instead. The 29-year-old American is an unbeaten wrestler, 7-0. All of his wins were under the Bellator banner, all of his pro fights under the Bellator banner. Of course, he's going to want to get it to the ground. Kasanganay is going to want to keep it on the feet and strike. Who controls it is going to be the one who gets the victory, I think, here. And I'm going to lean towards Kasanganay. His high level, his championship battles that he's had, he's fought some of the best, as he was going to do again against Edwards. I think that even though Newman is a great undefeated prospect here, I think that we're going to get the takedown defense from Kasanganay to be able to hold it on the feet and battle his opponent and give him his first loss here. When we come back, we're going to switch up, talking about Lights Up. We're going to talk about Allan Stott, talk to him about his debut win for them a couple of weeks ago on LX Lights Out Street Fighting 23.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but Torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Duke has looked really impressive, and it's why they are a minus money favorite to go ahead and cut down the Nets in San Antonio. Kevin Willard's a hell of a coach. There's no mistaking it. Sussman's going to kill me. I think he's going to do a good job at Villanova. The Villanova people are very happy with him, and they think that he's going to do a great job.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. Let's go back out to California. One can talk about this great Lights Out Extreme Fighting 23 card we just had a couple weeks ago. A man who made his debut on that card and put on a hell of a performance, not just debut for Lights Out Extreme Fighting, but also in his pro debut, and that was Allan Stott, who joins us now on the show, beating Garcia, second round TKO. Allan, thanks so much for joining us. Great debut. Before we get into the fight itself, let's let people get to know you a little more. Obviously, this was your first pro fight. First fight with Lights Out Extreme Fighting. So tell people a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into mixed martial arts? Where you're training right now and what drives you right now in your career to do what you're doing and get out there and fight.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me on. My name's Allan. I was born here in San Diego, but I started training like maybe 10 years ago, and I hit it hard those first couple of years because I was really trying to be a pro fighter. I wanted to do it big. So I was living in the gym, training like 2-3 times a day for a few years, and that's when I was fighting. Got a couple amateur fights that are my belt. I went 3-0 in Amis, but for this fight, man, it's been about 8 years since I fought last. So not in the gym like I used to be, but always training because I love martial arts. Like, it's the most healthy thing I've ever done for my body, for my mind. And I was home for a few months, and I had the opportunity, so I wanted to give it a go. So, it was my first pro fight. I knew it had to be pro because I didn't want to do the 2-3 minute rounds anymore. It's just not enough time in amateurs. Like, we do all this preparation, like go through all this fight camp to like show up, and we want to do it for the experience, put on a show, and it was awesome to have these 5-minute rounds to go in there and really get a feel for it. So, I did this for the fun of it, really. So.
Not many people would say getting punched in the face for a living is for the fun of it, but I mean, obviously you love it. That you stuck with it all this time, and before making your pro debut. And I mean, I don't know why you would need more than a couple minutes there, because you showed in this fight how you can get off real quick right there. I know you got the finish in the second, but 30 seconds in, you let him taste the power right away with that right. Put him on his ass. He got back up. But, it seemed like he definitely was hesitant after that, despite all the experience he had. He was, the guy who had 10 fights under his belt. You're the guy with none. And it seemed like you were, more of the veteran in this fight, the way you were controlling things on the feet. He got the late takedown in the first, but it seemed for the most part, especially in that first round before even getting to the second, that you were in control of this one. And there were no jitters, no anything. This was just your night, your world, and you were going to do everything you wanted to do in there.
Yeah, Brian, honestly, it was funny. Even back in the locker rooms, like I was looking around at these guys warming up, and like this is my pro debut, but I felt like I was the vet in the room. Like I've been around martial arts so long, you know, I've trained with big pro fighters, you know, so like to me, like it's a big show, you know, and it was a great experience, but it's like it's just it's a walk in the park, you know. So I was surprised, not surprised, but I noticed, like, you see it in his eyes, you know, where you hit him with some things, and it's like, I know it didn't hurt that bad, but I'm getting a reaction, you know. So I saw that where I kind of saw him waning. Man, I will say, like in that first round, you know, I hit him with some good shots. I know he tried to take down one time, and I was kind of on his back. It's like I saw the opportunities where I could have really pushed for the finish, but I wanted to see that second round. I wanted to get that time, get a little more experience, and just enjoy myself, you know?
Well, you definitely enjoyed yourself in the second round. Could you tell after the first that he was already gassed after those takedowns? Because, you know, he was on top for, you know, towards the end of that round. In the first round, you tried for that, you know, that triangle over the back. Didn't end up that way, and then he got on top. Got some shots in, you know, nothing major, but did you know going to your corner that he was shot? Because, you know, it didn't seem that way, but the second you stepped out there for that second round, you just mauled him. It seemed like he just had nothing left. I don't know what happened in that corner, if all the adrenaline just dumped at him or what. He was zapped, and you just pummeled him from there on until they finally stopped the fight.
Yeah, I mean, from a couple minutes in, I could already kind of feel like maybe he wasn't gassed yet, but like spiritually, he wasn't quite there. Like he was kind of wanting to rest up against the cage, and I kind of had to like rile him up a little bit to get a little more fight out of him. But yeah, like those takedowns, like I was comfortable being on bottom. I think I got in more strikes than he really did. So I was happy when it took me down. I was like coming into this, it's like I wanted to fight on the ground. I wanted to fight on bottom. I wanted to fight on top. I wanted to fight on my feet. So, I mean, there's only so much you can show in 6 minutes, but I got a pretty good mix in there. Coming in the second round, yeah, it was like just looking at him coming out of his corner. I knew it was only a matter of time.
Well, thanks so much, Allan. Great debut performance by you. Look forward to seeing you back out there in Lights Out Extreme Fighting again soon, hopefully. And thank you to everybody that tuned in here on the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. We'll talk to you again next week when we'll break down all the action going on across the platforms, all these different fight leagues. We got double cards for the BKFC in Dubai. We got the PFL starting their 2025 tournament season. We'll talk to you about all that next week here on the Combat Sports Report.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
4 number ones, 4 champions. 4 teams that battled and clawed their way here. But here's the thing about 4 number ones. Only one can truly be number one.
Incredibly difficult.
When the stakes are highest, there's only one place to get all your betting insights. SportsGrid. We've got you covered until only one remains. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.